So I realized I've never actually mentioned it before, but I love Game of Thrones. I started watching it when I was around 14, which if you are 14 watching this thinking I should start Game of Thrones, please ask your parents first. I didn't, but don't be me. Anyways, shitty ending, made me depressed. You've already heard this a million times. But when I heard about House of Dragons not run by D&D and with the help of George R.R. Martin, I was like, let's go. Fuck D&D. I fucking hate y'all. Hey, how's that Star Wars trilogy y'all were in a rush to go make? Yeah, that's what I thought. But yes, I watched House of Dragons and time skips, a lot of time skips, done in a way that I don't think I've ever seen before. I feel like most people don't really acknowledge time skips. Like, it's not something that people are like, oh yeah, I love time skips or I hate time skips or whatever. But time skips are a pretty tricky thing. The point of them is to, skip time, but they can easily cause a lot of problems. They sort of inherently go against core rules of storytelling. I feel like I mentioned in every video at this point, but show, don't tell. When you skip a bunch of time, the audience didn't get to see what happened, which means someone's gonna need to explain it to us, telling instead of showing. More than just that though, you can easily find yourself confusing the audience, removing them from their immersion, cutting plotlines short without reaching any kind of payoff, or losing all the build up to that payoff. And writers will use them in a lot of different ways. Sometimes they're just used as like a giant reset button. The 100 does this with an 125-year jump from season 6 to 7. The Earth gets fucked up, they go to a whole new planet, whole new civilization. I normally hate these kind of time skips. It's like an easy way out where the showrunners obviously didn't really have a plan and they have no idea where to go with the story, so they kind of just reset everything. And then there's the smaller time skips, which is what I'm mostly talking about with these problems. Again, I'm going to use the 100. There's a 6-year jump from season 5 to season 6 where the main character Clark is a whole kid now and it's like a super important relationship going forward. But I didn't see any build up for it, so like, I don't really give a fuck. There's entire new character dynamics with characters in committed relationships now, but before the time skip they barely knew each other. Some of them go through entire character arcs off screen. Endgame does this too with a 5-year jump after Infinity War, and we have Professor Hulk. The dynamic between Bruce and Hulk was built up for like the entirety of the MCU, and the resolution to all that was done completely off screen in the time skip. Most shows that use time skips will have 1 or 2 at most, and they'll be in between seasons. House of Dragons has 4 in one 10-episode season with actor switches. That is bold and risky, and for the first season, the season that needs to make us want to stay for the rest, they need to pull this off. And they do pull it off, mostly. But I think using these time skips, them trying to efficiently set up the story, they really failed one character, Kristen Cole. It's funny, I didn't think I could possibly have much to say about Kristen, but when I started writing my outline, I had like an entire page on just him. Kristen from the jump was set up to be a love interest for Rhaenyra. The first time we meet him, she's giving him the wreath blessing thing, and then he fights Rhaenyra's other love interest, Daemon. They show him in the fight as the honorable, kind counterpart to Daemon's harsh, cruel demeanor. While reading this back, I realized demeanor kinda has Daemon in it, so pun not intended. He shows Daemon mercy, he stays calm while Daemon is egotistically angry. He's like the nice guy, and I'm using the term nice guy intentionally. They build up their relationship in the hunting episode, and then I guess, like the climax of their relationship, Rhaenyra comes back from after her first sexual experience, Daemon not being able to get it up, and her being abandoned. And again, same dynamic she gets with the reluctant, honorable Kristen safely in her bed, compared to the rough Daemon who took her to a whorehouse and abandoned her. And I'm not gonna give a whole summary now, but he gets his marriage offer rejected, gets angry, obliterates the face of her husband's gay lover, and almost kills himself before Alicent stops him. Pretty basic stuff. And I know what they were going for here. Like I said, he's supposed to be the nice guy. If you don't know what a nice guy is, and are like, why the fuck does this dude keep calling Kristen nice? I pulled up an Urban Dictionary definition for you. A nice guy believes that because he behaves in a certain way, the world owes him for his actions. He doesn't make it clear what he desires from the beginning and becomes angry when he doesn't get what he wants. I think this sums Kristen up perfectly. My problem is after the time skip, that's all he is, an angry, cruel, one-note character. Before the time skip, the things that defined his character that was like built up to matter was his relationship with Rhaenyra and his honor. What does his relationship with Rhaenyra look like after what he did? How does a 15-year-old girl react to her first lover brutally murdering her fiance's gay lover at her wedding? That is such a weird sentence. The whole reason Criston was ready to end it all was because he lost all his honor by breaking his oath, by having sex as a Kingsguard, and then not getting married to the girl he had sex with. So how does he restore his honor? Why is that not a problem for him after the time skip? We don't see any of this. These dynamics are what made him a complex character. Now he's just nothing. And then there's the other character no one likes, Otto Hightower. Now I don't think Otto's character was like ruined or anything due to the time skips, but I do think they kind of fell into that trap with the plotline of Otto being fired from his Hand of the King job. Again, the setup for that was Otto kept pushing for Aegon to be king while actively trying to fuck over Rhaenyra. Viserys realized Otto was acting in his own self-interest, but spying on Rhaenyra and getting Alicent to get close to Viserys, so he gets rid of him. And then the new Hand burns alive, with Harwin Strong, by the way, the father of Rhaenyra's children, which like should be a big deal, but it's not, because their entire relationship happened in the time skip. But anyways, oh look, Otto's back. And I don't have a problem with Otto being back. I think it makes sense to who Viserys is. His flaw has always been an inability to stick to his decisions, to be strong in his ideals. But this whole plotline becomes useless when nothing has changed from it. When everything is back exactly to how it was. I want to see how Viserys came to the decision to bring Otto back. I want to see how the relationship has been strained from it. But we don't, because we skipped it. Okay, so we are well into this video, and I have not talked about the main stuff I wanted to talk about, because yeah, I didn't like this stuff, but overall the House of Dragons did a great fucking job. So how did the House of Dragons manage to skip time so well? For the most part, I'm gonna go off the assumption that showrunner Ryan Condal and George R.R. Martin knew what they were doing when they have these little time skip mishaps, and kinda didn't care. I think they knew that this isn't the real story, the thing that's gonna actually have an impact on us. That's the Dance of the Dragons. Everything we're watching is just set up for that. Now, one season of setup seems like a lot, but it's not anything we haven't seen before. The MCU Phase 1, 2, and 3 was all set up for Endgame. Attack on Titan's first 3 seasons was all really just set up for the real story in Season 4. Now, I had no idea that was true while I was watching it, but that's just because Attack on Titan. They are still telling a story in the setup, but its main purpose is to get us where they want us to be for the real story. It's like marinating the meat to get those flavors and then cooking it to bring everything together. So Condal and Martin's only real purpose in writing this first season was to get us ready for the upcoming war. And when you look at it from that angle, these time skips are kinda used perfectly. So with a challenge in covering decades in 10 episodes, all with the goal of making us care about the Dance of the Dragons, and making sure we understand the tragedy of this war, Condal and Martin had to bring us closer, make us care about the characters in this war. And the two characters who started and represented this tragedy better than any other was Rhaenyra and Alicent. So what did they do? Build the time skips entirely around their relationship. The first period of time, episodes 1 to 2, start with Rhaenyra getting off a dragon and talking to Alicent, who then go hand in hand, or arm in arm, through the castle. Those two are the first characters we're introduced to. Their relationship is the first relationship we're introduced to. And I'm saying relationship and not friendship because there seemed to be a little more than friendship there. Millie Alcock and Emily Carey seem to think so too.
Oh God, her, I mean, I don't know. I'm like, yeah. You know, incredibly closeted young woman. Will do anything for hugs.
Oh my gosh. Love that.
A little later, there's a scene under the redwood tree where Rhaenyra says she wants to explore the world with Alicent on Dragonback and eat cake. They're studying a book, and Rhaenyra tears out a page to give to her, and they're giggly, and they're all great and lovable, and just as close as they can be. The time period ends at the end of episode 2 with King Viserys choosing Alicent to be his next wife and to bear his children. Rhaenyra looks betrayed by both the people closest to her and storms out. Time skip. Episode 3, the first time we see Rhaenyra, she's at the redwood tree studying a book again, except this time she's alone. She's annoyed and bitter, and a pregnant Alicent shows up. Rhaenyra does not hesitate to show a little animosity, being purely professional, only calling her Your Grace, but Alicent is still trying to make amends, still trying to bring back that relationship. But this time period ends with Kristen killing Rhaenyra's lover. I still can't remember his name. Look at that, full circle. But in that scene is the arrival of Alicent to the wedding in her green dress, the color of House Hightower's banners at war. After finding out that Rhaenyra messed around with Daemon and Kristen and then lied to her about it, under that same redwood tree, by the way, Alicent is done trying to make amends and has officially, quote-unquote, declared war. Time skip. The opening scene of the first episode of this new time period, episode 6, is of Rhaenyra giving birth, and immediately after is told Alicent wants to see the child. Rhaenyra's face goes cold and doesn't trust her to send the child alone, so she walks with him to Alicent. Any trust they had for each other has been replaced with hate and fear. Episode 7, the final episode of this third time period, in what I think is the last real face-to-face confrontation between them two, Alicent tries to gouge the eye out of Lucerys for taking the eye of Aemond in the kids' little playground fight. Rhaenyra stops her and they get some words out about what they really think of each other. Time skip. Rhaenyra has left the Red Keep and the Hightowers to live with Daemon in Dragonstone. Okay, so what am I getting at here? Every time period will have a decisive moment at or near the end of that time period, which sends Rhaenyra's and Alicent's relationship in a new and worse direction, and the opening or very close to the opening scene after the time skip will have a scene to establish the new dynamic between them two. The time skips are used as a tool, again in a way I have never seen before, to allow us to witness the simple moments that pull the two closest people in the realm, I don't know if that's true or not, but I'm going to say it anyways, slowly apart until their resentment created a civil war. We see how these moments aren't created from the will of Alicent and Rhaenyra, but from the men in their lives that push them into it. Otto using Alicent to get to Viserys, and Viserys choosing her as his wife, telling her she has to oppose Rhaenyra or Rhaenyra will end her and her children, saying he's proud of her for probably the first time in her life, only after she tried to gouge the eye out of a child and cut Rhaenyra, creating plans to usurp the throne and kill Rhaenyra and her children without even telling Alicent. Alicent became a product of the patriarchy that surrounds her while Rhaenyra tries to surpass it. The time skips are used to show their love turn into bitterness and resentment, but like a calm before the storm, at the end we see how that love never fully died. Alicent kept that torn piece of paper that Rhaenyra gave her from under the redwood tree. Alicent does everything in her power opposing her father to not have to kill Rhaenyra, while Rhaenyra, with all the power at her fingertips, decides to not jump to war. But that final confrontation at the end of the third time period not only served as the culmination of all the moments of tension between them, but it also shows us how their resentment to each other had already spread to their kids, and the end of the last time period, the finale of the show, ends with Aemond killing Lucerys, wanting revenge for that same lost eye. Whatever love there was doesn't matter now. It's too late. The lens of the time skips takes us through years and years to build around a few simple, decisive moments between two girls that would inevitably begin the dance of the dragons.